Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you to Compass Games Live. It's episode 68, and today's December 3rd, 2021. For those joining us stateside, etc., those that recognize Thanksgiving holiday, I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving holiday, extended weekend break, hopefully with family and friends. Hope you had a safe and enjoyable holiday weekend. Of course, we're excited to be back. I mentioned in the last town hall session I'd see you guys next Thursday, and lo and behold, I didn't know that next Thursday was Thanksgiving Day, so I got that one way wrong, didn't I? So it's been 2 weeks since our last town hall, since our last time together, and we're excited to be back because it's going to be a very special session tonight. It's going to focus on the Third World War series, which is, again, it's at the printers right now, and it's been a long, very concentrated effort by the project team members. We don't have all our project team members here tonight, but we're going to be fortunate to have a few of our key members joining us tonight. We're really looking forward to that. But as I always like to do before we jump into Third World War series, let's go quickly and just take a quick update from Compass Games. There are a few just quick announcements I want to make. First of all, nothing's changed as far as our last release. It is Paper Wars issue 99. Which was, again, Assault on Tobruk, also is known as Rommel Triumphant. So a lot of people received that issue 99. Hope you're enjoying it. Also, it had a somewhat of an extension enhancement for Devil Boats as well, which people seem to be enjoying as well. So there was something added to issue 99 also for Devil Boats. Issue 100 will be next, by the way, and that's going to have a separate expansion for America Bomber by Gregory Smith. Get that asked a lot, so I just want to, again, remind everybody it is issue 100 that will have the America Bomber expansion, which will be our next Paper Wars release. Talked to Bill recently, and of course we'll talk to Bill next Thursday, a week from tonight. But he basically told me that with the Compass Expo and with the catalog sales being what it is and the warehouse just being super busy over the holidays, etc., and shipments going out, that he's going to slowly hit the rest button a little bit. So we're going to have no releases scheduled between now and the new year. So we're going to have starting in January, and again, there's a lot of titles that are going to be happening in January, but the ones we announced, which is both Russian Campaign and Imperial Tide, those are pushed out to the new year. So no new releases, but again, Bill will be able to update everybody as far as the release schedule. So we'll be spending our time with Bill and Billy Thomas next week, and they'll definitely go over the schedule at that time. Also, we got our newsletter out earlier today, so obviously here's our we headlined because we didn't have too much new news, so we headlined really tonight's session because we know there's a lot of interest in the Third World War series. So that's really what our lead-off story was in our newsletter that went out earlier this morning. So this is about the broadcast that's happening right now. Again, just a reminder, we had that Paper Wars 99 release. That's our most recent release, and we expect that's going to be the last release of the year for Compass Games as we get ready for the new year. Again, the catalog sale runs through January 25th. So we've got all that information for you there. And the catalog sales are going still very strong, I think, for the upcoming holidays coming up end of this month. Paper War subscription, I believe you all know about. That's your Paper War subscription is going to run out with issue 100, which will be the next release that we are talking about. And then you're going to need to resub if you want to receive issues 101 through 104. Everybody's subscription is going to end with 100. So you would actually want to resubscribe or renew your subscription, which will include 101 through 104. And you can see the 4 games that are included in that mix of issues. And the low stock alert remains, no changes here. So again, just a reminder for everybody, there's 1 or 2 games, which I actually thought had almost sold out, but it looks like End of Empire is just barely hanging in there. So End of Empire and Fall of the Third Reich, as well as Blitz, seem to be extremely low stock. So I don't know how much longer it will be until, and I'll zoom in here a little bit. It's a little hard to see, but you can see here a little bit better. But again, these items are still available, but once they're sold, we're not going to reprint them. Bill's been really clear that he wants to announce for everybody that once these games sell out, there will be no reprint we're going to be pursuing for these particular titles. So just want to bring that to your attention. That's something we usually talk about during the town halls. I'm going to skip some of these sections because I'm going to have Maurice Fitzgerald join us from Mo's Game Table here in a moment. But our most recent game release, by the way, besides Paper Wars, our boxed game was Kharkov Battles. It's before and after Fall Blau. That's a standalone game, or you can combine it to extend Fall Blau both at the beginning of the campaign and then prolong it at the end of Fall Blau with this extension. So this game can be played by itself, or you can extend Fall Blau as well as part of the series. And then, as I just mentioned, we're going to be releasing these games after the new year. So instead of November, December, look for these games right after the new year for Imperial, tied by Gregory Smith and Russian Campaign. And then again, we want to just tip our hat to Mark Ruggiero and David White, who run the Facebook Compass Games Enthusiast group. We really appreciate all what you guys do, and a lot of great posts in there every day. There's a lot of daily activity, 5 to 10 posts a day, people sharing photos and asking questions about Compass Games, which is wonderful. And they're up to already 1,400 plus members. We're also coordinating with Mark. We're looking to try to pull off a Compass Games West. We've just done Compass Games Expo, which is really Compass Games East in Connecticut and Meriden that we just wrapped up last month. But we're hoping we can pull off a Compass Games West for next year. So that's something we're still pursuing, and Mark Ruggiero's helping us look into that. What I'd like to do now, actually, at this point, well, that's one last reminder, is just for Compass Games Expo last month, we've got a photo gallery. If you click on it, it will launch a new page, and you can just basically see about 80 to 100 photos with some brief descriptions of everything that went down, pretty much everything that went down at Compass Games Expo. So you can comment as well. As long as you have a Google account, you can sign in to actually add comments, but you'll see all the different games that were played by all games from all publishers. Obviously, we're just coming together to celebrate the hobby. For a lot of people, it was their first game convention in nearly 2 years. We had about 115, 116 people in total that showed up. So we had a few walk-ins as well. But again, I hope you take a moment just to check that out. You'll be able to get to this again from our expo page, from our main page on our website. So it was a real pleasure to host Cup Games Expo recently. We also got the link to our most recent town hall with Bill, which again was back on November 18th. And what I'm going to do is I want to pause right here for a moment because I do want to bring in Maurice Fitzgerald into our stream, because we're going to be talking a little bit about, what are we going to talk about? Learn to play, I believe.
Learn to play and some Vassal modules. First thing we'll start off is the Learn to Play.
Let's start with Learn to Play. So let's, if you could give everybody an update on what's happening with the Learn to Play series, that'd be awesome.
Sure. This is the 6th Learn to Play in the series so far, and it's the Doomsday Project Episode 1, the Battle for Germany, that was done by Adam Starkweather, and he ran us through the Berlin scenario where we had a couple of people in the audience that were taking part of it. John and Carl were in there, and I think they're both here tonight. I know John is. I think Carl is as well. So, excuse me. They were playing the game, and Adam was explaining it, so it was a lot of fun.
That's great. That's great. And I do want to mention, so one thing I know you've been working on also, Mo, for the Compass website is, and let me show it here, is maybe you can explain here. We've added a new link here, Compass Learning Library. So maybe you can explain. I'll click on it actually as well. So we'll just pull it up. So here we go.
Yep. And this is going to be where we're going to put all the Learn to Play series videos. So that way, if you're not sure where to go, or if you missed one and you just found out about it after the fact, you can go right there to the learning library and dig in there and go see the video. Just click on the link. It'll open up in another window and you can watch the video and get a good rundown on how to play any of the games that you want.
How long was the Learn to Play with Battle for Germany Doomsday? What was the total runtime when
the total runtime after editing was about an hour and 14 minutes.
Oh, hour and 14. So that's a lot of learning. That's good.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it was a really good run through. And then is it too premature to announce what you have in store next for the next Learn to Play?
Well, the next one that we're going to do won't be till January. We're not going to do one for December. I had been thinking about it, but then I was like, you know what? With the holidays and everything, we're just we're not going to do one this month. So we'll hold off till January. But I think everybody will be happy with what they'll see in January.
Okay, great. Well, let's switch gears. So that's a little bit about Learn to Play series, everybody. So please check out the videos. We want to make it easy for you to find from our website. As we mentioned, we're also going to be in the process of adding a lot of videos done by the various content contributors out there. I'm not sure if that's going to be a separate video page or we just
Yeah,
add
it'll
them
be
to the
separate.
individual product pages. Yeah. So we're gonna get all that worked out. But right now, as you can see, this is sort of phase one.
Yep.
Mo's completed phase one. That we get the Learn to Plays, give those some special love and attention, since that's sort of a special Compass exclusive, and then we'll be adding all these videos as well. So going back to the newsletter, because I know I have it mentioned here, I think I have to scroll. I'm not sure which direction I have to go on that one. Let me check
It's up.
really quick. There it is. Okay, so yeah, maybe I'm a little too big here, but we've been things have been hot and heavy on the Vassal module front. So let me just share with everybody. Mo approached us a few months ago saying, there's so many games Compass has, and I don't even know what modules you really have. I know the Vassal site sort of lists them, but I'm not sure if that's all of them or not. It's just whoever submits them. So what about an organized effort to get, everything on Vassal that we can, and then moving forward as well, just to plan those out. So I know we're going to talk about these 4 tonight, but I think how many have been released in the last 3 months or so? It's been a lot.
I think we got
right?
we got like 11 or 12, I think, so far. So
11 or 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've got a bunch more in development right now.
So these are new since the last newsletter, actually. So the last newsletter I listed 3 or 4 new Vassal modules. None of those are mentioned here, and that's just from our last newsletter in the middle of November. So we've already got 4. So we're averaging like 1 new one a week at this clip, at least.
Yeah.
So and then I'll let you go ahead and talk through who did each module here, if you'd like, just to walk people through it real quickly.
Sure. The 4 new ones this week are Decision at Kasserine, Designer Signature Edition. Joel Topton did that one. And then we have Korean War Designer Signature Edition and Lebensraum, which was done, both of those, by Kevin Conway. And then the final one was Once We Moved Like the Wind, which was done by Christian Van Someren. So these guys have really been doing a great job on the team and just really knocking these out. We're just a few away from pretty much completing the entire back catalog. And at that point, we'll be moving forward with new games that'll be coming out, and then also moving into getting involved, hopefully, in the development cycle of some of these games. So it's going to be a multifunction team.
That sounds great. And then I think also we're going to get into a new clothing line you're going to help sponsor. So we have naked, I guess we're going to do some naked HD online strips without clothing.
Wow.
So, I like to show off how YouTube, it's not even called a hack anymore. Anybody can get into YouTube. I've got guest mode on. I don't really care because I can control what we show. So yeah, people can come in and have some fun and do some free advertising. But maybe this is people ask for the Compass hoodies, so maybe we need to do some X-rated.
Yeah, there you go. We'll have to get rid of that guy and see if we can do some free
more people. So.
Free hoodies. Yeah.
And Andrew's going to take up spam patrol. That's all right. Spam's going to happen. We're not too worried about it. We're pretty easygoing, as everybody can probably tell already. So great job on the Vassal module. And also on Vassal, if you click to go to Vassal module on their page, there's a company publisher specific page. So you can see all the Vassal modules for Compass games on one page, which is pretty cool. So we're going to keep filling them up. And as you mentioned, there's a few in the works right now. So maybe we'll have another 2 to 3 at least coming up in the next week or 2. So next time you're on,
we should have 3 more. Yeah,
3 more. So we'll have 3 more. So that's awesome news. So, and you were at Compass Expo. So before I let you go tonight, I just want to see if there's anything. Just if you could share your experience with everybody, because quite a few people haven't been to an event in a while. It's been really tough, with the pandemic. But maybe you can share just your experiences while you were out at Compass Games Expo.
That was a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to next year as well. And it was great just to see everybody and talk to a lot of people there that you meet online, you talk to either on the shows or whatever, and you finally get to meet in person. It's really cool. And we even had some of the guys from the Vassal team there as well. So we were able to talk with them and talk about some future plans, as well as just sit down, play some games and hang out with some really cool people. And just had a really great time. If you didn't get a chance to go this year, definitely go next year, because it's a really fun atmosphere, and it's a great little place too, because there's enough room for everybody, and there's a spillover room that we were able to use as well, where we had the pizza party. So definitely plenty of room to play, and it's not too loud, which is great. You definitely hear some the talking and everything going on, but you're not overpowered by the sound, which is great.
Well, it's great to see you out there, and we'll
Yep.
definitely be back next year for Compass Games East. I know somebody asked what about Compass Games South and all that. I just right now we're focusing on Compass Games West. I think it's just natural to go east to west. Somebody mentioned
Sure.
Compass Asia, so yeah. I mean, right now we're just trying to crack the nut right now, just to do Compass Games West. Compass Games East is all set. The main expo in Connecticut will be back in November for sure. It's already set in contract. It's set in stone, so to speak. So we'll definitely be there. And that'd be great, Jack, if you can make it there. That would be awesome. I think the one complaint about Compass Expo, there was no Applebee's next door.
Yeah.
Like you have. You're right next to Applebee's. You're always broadcasting live from Applebee's, which is
That's
great that
right.
they let you into the bar area there with the
Got to
possum.
make sure we got it. Exactly. And, the other thing, too, is being at, the theme of tonight is going to be Third World War. We're going to have to put the warning order already out to Frank that we expect maybe we'll get some time with him to do a learn to play for the Third World War.
That would be great. Yeah, it would be awesome to be able to do that for sure. So, well, listen, thanks for all you do. So it's great to have you on. We'll have you on again in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
For the next talk about an update on Learn to Play, maybe the January one coming together. And then, of course, we'll check in on the Vassal modules and anything else you want to talk about.
Sure.
Thanks so much, Mo.
Sounds
Appreciate
good.
it.
Have a good night.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye. All righty. So that was just a quick check-in with Mo. So as mentioned, what we're going to be focusing on is Third World War series. And for those that are uninitiated about Third World War series, just to give you a quick idea what we're talking about, this is an image of the original. This is the original releases from GDW. So Third World War series is a series. It's 4 games individually that were done by GDW. We're going to have, of course, we're going to welcome Frank Chadwick because we want to, I don't know the history of these 4 games at all. I've never seen an interview with Frank or read an interview in any magazines about the Third World War series. So I'm really extra excited just to learn. We're going to delve into the history, learn from Frank, what the experiences were with the game series. And then we're going to obviously segue into the new edition. And that's when I introduce our new project team members for the new Compass Games Designer Signature Edition release that's already at the printers. So this is the 4 games that are basically going to be in our new edition. So with that being said, and without further ado, let me please introduce to everybody Frank Chadwick. Frank, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. How about you, John?
Oh, great. It's great to have you again to be our special guest tonight. And I really mean it. I really don't know much about the history of these 4 games. I do have the 4 games. To be honest, I haven't had a chance to really play them all yet, but that's okay because there's other people that are just have really dedicated much time in the hobby with the 4 games. But what I was hoping you could do is, in a way, sort of walk us through. I'd be really curious to learn about just the origins of how the series came to be. Was it always planned to be a series? Which was the first release, which I'm sure everybody else knows already, but maybe you could take us through a little bit of a stroll through memory lane here, all about GDW and this particular series.
Sure, I can do that. Probably the origin, the deep origin was a miniatures game that I did that GDW did in conjunction with GHQ Micro Armor in 1980 called TAC Force, and that was the first time I got seriously into looking at modern weapon systems and modern combat and stuff like that. And it was a good experience to do it. It suffered from, it's got a lot of good ideas. I don't want to, there's some people I think still remember that game fondly, but I mean, it suffered from people, from a designer first getting into a new subject and learning all this new stuff and wanting to put it all in the game, and not really knowing enough yet to synthesize it into something a little bit more manageable. So there was an awful lot of detail in the game. A lot of it was pretty good detail, but it was still not the sort of game I'd do now.
Let me do this. I want to give you a proper introduction for those that may have not be too familiar with a lot of the games you've done, and I'll try to zoom in here because it's hard to read here. But over on Board Game Geek, they actually get into listing your most notable titles. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I guess that could be a separate conversation.
Really but I'm sure, no, they're pretty good.
So here we got 1815 Waterloo campaign. I wasn't expecting that one to be in there as notable because I don't know if it had any follow-ons as far as series game. But
no, not at all. It was
Drang nach Osten, for sure. Unenscheid and all those games. The Third World War series obviously is listed here for, it's credited as 1984. So I assume that's the first year that the first game came out.
That's right.
Was in 1984.
Mhm.
But what I always have a kick showing here is your number of game designs you've done and been associated with. So this number is pretty scary. 123 game titles associated with your
That's about
with what
right.
you've done so far.
Mhm.
That's an amazing number. I don't know too many designers I can say. How many designers would you say have done more designs, published designs than you? That's a pretty high number.
Well, Joe Miranda, I think, probably
Yes.
has the record for the for the
Of
largest
Joe
number.
Miranda, yeah, with the strategy and tactics issues and Modern War magazine and all
and he
those.
just keeps doing, and he's done stuff outside of the commercial game industry, the hobby game industry. So he's just done a pile of games. I think he's probably the all-time top. And Jim Dunnigan's got an awful lot of design credits. His name's on a lot of games.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. So it's pretty amazing. So if anybody gets a chance, I definitely recommend going through all the 123 titles. It's like a stroll down memory lane, but obviously you're actively designing.
There are only about 70 of them that are board games.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah,
I think. I think my count is like 70 some.
I'd have to go through the list
board
here.
games.
So the other ones being what, miniatures realm, like command decision modules.
There's miniatures games, and there's some role-playing games too. But
role playing too. Right. Well, okay. So I've done that. I forgot. I should have done that first up front, but now we've got that out of the way. I want to return back to the
that
Third World
picture
War
of me
series.
was taken months ago, by the way.
Which was taken months ago?
That picture of me that you just showed at the top of that was.
Oh, really?
Months ago, many months ago.
This one right here?
Yeah.
So this was at Origins, I'm guessing, or some other event maybe? What do you think? I don't know what year this would have been, but
I think it was probably at an Origins.
Probably at an Origins, right? Were you at the first Origins event?
I was, yeah.
You were, right? And that's when, was D&O then? Was that when D&O was released? Was the first?
No, D&O was released before there was an Origins.
Okay.
That was the very first game we did. That launched GDW.
That's amazing.
And it was
that's
originally released in a brown paper mailer. It was just with this D&O with a rubber stamp that we could tell that from Unentschieden,
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay, well, let's go. Let's talk a little bit about the Origins here. Again, you mentioned already a little bit about the miniatures. There was a miniatures.
So I did TAC Force, and that kind of got my juices flowing for Modern Warfare. And that was in 1980, and then like 3 years later, as kind of my thinking about all that had matured, we did a game called Assault, which was a very big series for us. And that was Modern Warfare at a tactical level. But in the course of doing all that, I'd gotten really interested in the operational battle, the kind of big picture of the whole European theater. And so TAC Force was in 1980. We did a bunch of follow-ons to it, but it was pretty clear. I mean, Assault was in 83. But I was really itching to do something that wasn't tactical. So in 84, we did Third World War Battle for Germany. And it was planned as a series right from the beginning. I mean, when I first, or at least halfway through, I can't say that we sat down and mapped out all four, but I think about halfway through the development process on Third World War, I was looking at maps to do the rest of it, because it was the big part of the puzzle. It was the part of the puzzle that people were going to buy first and was going to sell everything else. But nobody had ever done the other stuff, nobody had done the Yugoslavia, all the stuff in the southern
like
front.
the southern front.
Nobody done the Arctic front.
So that was the idea. So you guys noticed
as a separate game, not as part of a Third World War. So those games followed on pretty quickly. Third World War came out in early 84, and Southern Front came out in late 84. I mean, it came out the same.
That's really fast. So
year.
These really came in quick succession.
Arctic
So you
Front
struck while the
came in
iron was
85,
still
and
hot.
Persian Gulf came in 86, and it was always planned to be those four games with the possibility of a naval game. And I looked and looked and looked at the naval game, and it was really stupid. I mean, the situation is not a very balanced gaming situation, and it's there aren't many options. I mean, you throw the Soviet fleet at the U.S. fleet once to see if you can kind of break that Atlantic pipeline for heavy equipment, and you don't.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, exactly.
it was not a very good fleet, and the U.S. fleet, the U.S. Navy was really good, particularly naval air.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they're just you'd have to write some real creative science fiction to make that thing anywhere near the least that I could see. I could never see a really very good game there.
Could you? What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually log in while you're talking because people are asking me to block the spam bot that's going through. So I'm going to have to actually do something off screen. But while I do that, can you talk a little bit about, share with everybody what the reaction was from the public that you were hearing about the Third World War series? One of the games or all four of the games. If there were reviews, or if you could just share some experiences. I'm going to go off screen while you do that.
Sure.
Take care of that.
It was a very well received series. It was timely. It was a subject people were interested in, and they liked the treatment. We did some interesting things with it, so it got some very good reviews. The weakest seller in the series was Arctic Front. There's not much up there. I mean, and at that time we did a lot of game sales through the Army Air Force base exchange system. And they bought a lot of our military games, and we kind of knew the proportion of sales of the different games. And so when the buyer came to me and put in this big order for Arctic Front, I said, you're buying as many of those as Third World War, and its sales are not. That says, don't worry about it. We're putting them all in. What is it? Fort Drum.
Fort Drum, yeah.
Because that's where the 10th Mountain Division was stationed, and that's where they're slated to go, and they're really interested in this particular game. And they sold a boatload of them to people in the 10th Mountain Division.
There's some stories already. Eric Walters, I know, who serves in the military. He's talking here about how they loved the Marines loved the Arctic Front. Very cool. Craig's over on YouTube right now.
And like I say, it didn't sell as much because it wasn't in some ways as sexy a title, but it was a good game.
That one it
was very well received.
Yeah, and that one does have, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm thinking of our maps for the new edition. That's I believe Arctic Front does cover the whole Nordic region. If I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah, I think the new one does. Yeah. I don't
so
think I'm trying to. It's been so long. I'm trying to remember if we included the Swedes and Finland. I think I keep thinking Swedish.
We've got people here that are going to help answer that question.
Oh, okay. You've got some people in later, yeah. So the Army selling a bunch of Arctic Fronts. That was a nice little wrinkle because it was.
Here's Tony over on YouTube wants to know how many units of the games were sold back in the day, if you can recall.
Boy, that was like a long time ago.
It was, yeah.
And numbers weren't as big then necessarily as they got to be later. But we probably sold, I don't know, about 10,000.
Yeah, jeez. 10,000 today would be like, okay, we're not going to have Compass Games live for a few weeks. We're going to go on holiday.
But I mean, that was over the course of, and I don't mean 10,000 of all, I mean 10,000 of Third World War Battle for Germany is probably what we sold. You think we reprinted it a couple of times, and our initial run was usually around. Our initial run was like 3,000 to 5,000, and then
great.
Swedes and Finns are included. Okay.
Yep, there you go. Greg's going to join us here in a moment. He's one of our project team members. So when we get to talking about the updated edition, we'll definitely go there. Let me ask you this about Third World War series. Is there anything you're most proud of, or anything when you think back? I know it's been a long time, but when you think back on the system that's still being played often today, you'll hear about that here in a moment, and you're hearing it here from the comments I'm sharing. But is there anything in particular you really liked about the work you did on it?
Oh yeah, there is. There's a couple things I really like. The thing I think is personally, I think the coolest thing in the design is the air system, and it's not the air combat system, which is pretty straightforward. It's the air maintenance system. because another game I'd been working on in 81 was Suez 73, and I'd worked on the 73 war before with a lot of the work on our edition of Bar-Lev.
Yeah.
But I got a lot deeper into it in 81 to do Suez 73, and there was a lot more material out. And one of them striking thing was about the air combat, and everybody was talking about quality versus quantity and all this sort of stuff, but nobody was looking at sortie rate. And the way that the Israelis really clobbered the Arabs in 73 was they had about 3 times as high a sortie rate. So yeah, you outnumber us. Yeah. So what? We've got at any one time we got more planes in the air than you do. And so at that point, I went back and started looking at all the stuff that we knew about maintenance on the east and each side of the inter-German border, and I started saying, boy, that's the Soviets' problem. It's not that their planes suck; it's that they can't fly it. They can't keep them flying. And that's what that system did. Was it really showed not just plane to plane differences, but the huge problem, the huge difference in serviceability that we would likely to be able to sustain that they couldn't. So I mean, to me, that's the coolest thing in the game.
That's the coolest thing. Was there any additional challenges in making sure they all linked together ultimately for the grand campaign, all 4 titles together? Was that a special effort, or was it pretty easy to come together?
That wasn't that tough because that's what we'd been planning all along, and so it was kind of set up to do that. So particularly the 3 in Europe. Bill Mills asked you, and that was like, I would say there's 3 things I really like. The second one is the proficiency concept, which is the kind of the key of the ground game, where because you can talk about, before a couple of us were talking about this, but you can talk about equipment all you want to, but it's the pilots that are flying the planes, and it's the troops on the ground in the vehicles. That make a huge difference as to how
like
well
the C3I. Is it getting more into the soft factors of C3I, that battlefield effectiveness and communications, ability to respond?
So we kind of built all of combat into this reduction in proficiency, and partially that's material losses, but it's also cohesion losses. It's losing key personnel. I mean, one thing the 73 war really did prove is that if you can take a unit and it can take a hell of a beating, but if its leadership cadre is intact, you still got a unit. You still got a lethal functioning unit, and it may need a couple of days to get back on its feet, but when it does, it's going to be there, really punching hard. If you don't have much of a leadership cadre to begin with, units come apart pretty quickly. So I wanted to build the ground system around that concept of proficiency, but I also, in the sequencing, and I don't forget exactly the numbers now, but the West got more times during the turn when their proficiency went back up, because the West designed their units to be in continuous combat or pulled out and then reformed and everything else. And the Soviets did kind of build their units as one-shot units.
Gotcha. Interesting. So that's a different doctrine altogether. Yeah.
So the game kind of reflects that difference in the unit structures. That when the Soviet units got burned out, it's a lot harder to get them back in the game, and it's comparatively easier for the West. And I guess the last thing I like about it was the sequencing of the sequence of play. That instead of this being kind of a mirror image, identical sequences of play, the sequence was different for the 2 sides. And it reflects kind of the doctrine, the operational doctrine of the 2 sides. So the Soviets, you just get to slam you a couple of times right in a row, just with the kind of a reflection of the echelon concept, where they can just hit you with a wave, it can be book, and then hit you again right away. Right. Whereas the Allies have a lot more ability to react defensively during the Soviet turn. I kind of liked that uneven sequence of play a lot in terms of the armies play differently. They work.
Do you think one of the allures of the Third World War series, because it's so often sought after today, is all these things you've mentioned about how you bring in the doctrine, the concept of unit effectiveness, the sorties, HQs, what you talked about the Soviets, it's a one-time hit versus on the West side, they're going to regroup. That's a lot to unpack, and this is back in the 80s. So do you think it's those mechanisms taken as a whole that's really what draws people to it, or do you think it's just more the subject matter that it could have been a game?
I think it's both. I mean, the subject matter had been done before. I mean, starting with what SPI's NATO is kind of the same subject matter. On not a that different a scale. About one good-sized map is also what the Third World War Battle for Germany did, but I think the richness of the mechanical system,
how it all melts together.
And it was real. That's those differences in proficiency and maintenance and stuff were really useful when you got away from just the central front, and then when you get out to some of the peripheral armed forces in NATO and the Warsaw Pact that weren't their A teams, but were still in there slugging. I mean, it was easier to do them without just making their numbers smaller. I mean, the things we can change proficiency, we can play with their maintenance and serviceability on aircraft, other than just having a kind of a lower technological level of aircraft available.
Yeah, no, that's great. Eric mentions the same thing. It's all these factors together. He feels like just the individual parts coming together just works so well. The sum was really worked, and then. Eric mentions here, he loved the asymmetric playing styles to the game. Also, Jack joining us on YouTube mentions, even for the defensive posturing in the game, it was just as enjoyable. Which I know not every game might not quite be as just as enjoyable, but since you've got all these different interactions going on, the defensive side, definitely has more decisions to make. Thomas is joining us on YouTube tonight. There's quite a few comments and questions coming in for you now, Frank. So I thought I'd close out with some of these comments and then we'll get into some questions for you. So also, the NATO game you mentioned by SPI. That's obviously
that was a groundbreaking game. It was a groundbreaking game.
So Jack wants to ask you about some other things as well. So were you surprised at how big a hit A House Divided is through today?
I suppose I was a surprise. I mean, it's still it's probably that's without a doubt the board game I'm proudest of. I think that's the best board game I ever designed, and it's really weird that I spent like a year trying to figure out how to do a Civil War game, and just nothing worked, and then I literally designed A House Divided in a week. Or you could say I designed it. I took a year to design it, but nothing.
But it came together.
I mean, all that other stuff I was doing was preparation. It was trying stuff and failing it, and finally, just everything clicked. And
have you had that experience with another game where everything just clicked at once? Was that the one time that happened, or is that a more?
Well, that's the
common
time I remember most, because that was the clearest. Because everything I'd done that made the game complicated and icky went away when I took the hex grid and threw it away. I mean, that was the breakthrough.
That's a big,
because I was trying to figure out all these ways to make the communication lines important. Well, what if I got rid of everything but the communication lines? That didn't work.
1 week, that's amazing.
And once I did that, everything fell into place.
That's great. Patrick, off topic, wants to ask, and this is probably would apply to many other games you've done. Have you ever considered doing a redo of Citadel or update of Citadel? What's your thoughts about that design of yours?
I love that design. I mean, I know it's a little clunky in a lot of ways, but there's some things in it that I think are terrific. I love the handling of tanks in that game, because they don't have any combat. All they do is a morale modifier, but morale is everything when you're doing close assaults. And it just really worked well as to, rather than trying to model that the cannon is the machine gun. It just is a morale bump, and the morale is kind of how close assault works. It worked really well in that game. So I really like that. I mean, it would really require some rethinking to make it a little bit more playable and compact in terms of how you went from battle to battle to battle. In terms, it might have to some sort of impulse system where where you jump ahead in time when something. But I haven't thought about it much. I mean, it needs something to make the game more less time consuming to play. But boy, the nuts and bolts of that combat system, I really liked.
Well, given you did a house divided in a week, we'll give you 2 weeks and we'll call it even. How's
Yeah.
that sound? So when you were, maybe it was just the 70s, I don't know, but what was the work environment like at GDW? Were you meeting physically at the office, working on designs with the others there, your partners, or and was it into the 80s as well? Like, I'm not sure what the timeline was. I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah.
About
Well, the whole time we all met, we had the same office, virtually the entire history of GDW. It was the floor above a drugstore. Well, half of it was over a drugstore. The other half was over the restaurant that had great coffee every morning.
Oh, you need that, right? As long as,
Yeah,
especially if they're open.
that was
Hopefully
the first
they're open
stop,
late
and then
hours.
you go up to the office. We kind of had a bullpen arrangement. We had an open office plan before office. Everybody used that word, I guess. And there was always a lot of brainstorming and playing and getting out maps and drawing maps and pushing stuff around on them so yeah, it was a very I had a nephew of mine worked in our warehouse one summer, and he said, this place reminds me of a hippie commune where everybody works real
That sounds
hard.
great. That sounds all right. Low stress. It sounds like maybe a very creative vibe, which you need for design. Or design's harder back then, because I know with the advent of the computer and communications today being basically instantaneous. Do you feel like I know it's probably hard to remember. It's just too different probably back then.
How do you mean?
Well, just it's sort of based on Ethan's question here. Were the earlier designs more complicated to get done?
No. I'll tell you, to me, that although there's been a lot of technological revolutions that have helped in text formatting and make it easier to make a really beautiful looking final product in terms of the physical product, that was a lot harder. Making a final physical product that looked good and getting it produced, that was a lot harder back then.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Which is why the games don't look as good. Putting as much work in, but this is what you get for it.
Yeah.
In terms of the real difference in terms of designing historical games was we didn't have the internet, and the internet is an enormous time saver. If you want to know what the 20 biggest cities in Europe were in 1939, it takes you about 5 minutes now.
Wow,
but back then that was a week-long research project.
That's a great
so
point.
A lot of that stuff just didn't get researched because there wasn't enough time to do it. The access to research now is just is great. It's great. Boy, wish we'd had that back then.
Well, let me do this. What I want to do, because I'm running a little behind, but this is not enough time to spend with you. I feel horrible because there's really no good cutoff to do this, but I want to make sure we have time to also talk about the new edition. So Let me just take a moment. I want to introduce three members of our project team. So I want to thank you in advance, Frank, for taking on a consulting role. A few times we definitely had some questions for you. We wanted to get it blessed by you, and you were able to give us a really good direction. And also thanks for giving them the freedom to, have the confidence to go do the update on their own, which I think worked out great.
And this really is their work. This is
and it was an update. We're going to talk about how they approach the work. So this is not like a redesign or anything along those lines. That was not the scope of the game. Somebody asked, and I'll bring this up in a moment here about did you update order of battles and change things, and we'll cover that as a team. But let me introduce to you. I want to introduce to you, which through Basecamp site, but get to meet them in person here. Is I'll bring in three people. So first, I'm going to bring in Eric Farragos joining us. So how you doing, Eric?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
Great to have you here. And I also want to introduce next is Greg Warren. Greg, welcome to tonight's broadcast.
Thanks, John. Glad to be here.
And last but not least, and again, there's many others. I get in trouble. It's like the Oscar Awards. You nominate, give the speech, acceptance speech. I'll get in trouble. There are other team members, but our last one for tonight, I want to introduce Chris Fawcett. Chris is actually quite well known because he did Barlev. He did his own rendition of Barlev, which was also based on the GDW work somewhat. So, Chris, welcome.
Thanks. Nice
So
to
what
be
I'd like
here.
to Yeah, great to have you guys here, and for all you've done. We're going to talk about this project here, moving here quickly. But first, before we talk about the new edition, maybe I'll start with you, Eric. Is if you could share with the viewers and obviously for Frank directly, just your experience you've had with the Third World War series. I don't know if you have any particular fond memories or just your opinions about the game, what you like most. Just what you'd like to say to Frank about the whole series.
Certainly. I kind of bought the game as a mistake. A couple of kids I was in school with were talking about a game, and they were describing how they would always somehow take all the armies from everywhere and bring them up to Central Europe to fight. And that's clearly not what you do in Third World War. I think they were talking about NATO, the game NATO.
Mm-hmm,
So I bought Third World War by accident, and I'm glad I did. It's a fantastic game. I love it. I found the rules fairly simple, but then I'm comparing that with Squad Leader. So almost everything is easy in comparison.
True,
I love the covers. Covers really sold me on that game. Just a mushroom cloud. It just kind of was just the horror of war, and I really love the artwork.
All right. Well, that's important. Just like we had that little spammer earlier about some X-rated stuff, we got some cover porn for you with the mushroom cloud that drew you in, so we know what your weakness is. It's good to know. There we go.
Yes.
Those were all
So
painted
awesome.
by a guy by the name of Steve Venters. He was one of the regular artists we worked with. Vietnam veteran. He was very good with equipment. And I do remember that in terms of that first cover, the thing that I think it was me that wanted it, but certainly it was what we told Steve was we didn't want to see on that first cover a human face. You know, that the actual idea of having them in a mask, in the mop suit, so that you couldn't see anything, any human face on that first cover was an important part of making that forbidding. You know, the mushroom cloud certainly, this is there too, but I mean, it was.
I mean, the other three covers are beautiful, but nothing portrays
That
modern horrors of modern war than a mushroom cloud.
Very evocative. Very evocative. Well, let's do this. I want to move on next. Let's ask Greg Warren, bottom right. Greg, if you could share with Frank and our viewers just your experience with Third World War series.
Sure. Yeah, I got into wargaming probably in the 80s, early 80s. I think the first game I bought was Panzer Blitz at a toy chest. Then, got through gaming, and a couple friends that lived around me in the neighborhood were wargamers too. So we got together and bought Third World War, Battle for Germany. It was 84, got it. That's the year I graduated high school. And we spent pretty much the whole summer not out chasing girls or partying, but in the basement playing Third World War.
I had your priorities right.
Yeah.
Yes,
so, that was a great time. We knew Southern Front was coming out, so I think we got that late in 84, and I think we spent Christmas break playing the combined Battle for Germany and Southern Front, and just looked forward to each year. And I mean, we spent, summers pretty much in my parents' basement. We had an old pool table that Europe was set up on, and had an old dining room table set to the side that Persian Gulf was set up on. And, we ran through it several times for the summer, each of us taking NATO and the Pact and switching it around. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of great memories. And, and now I'm even, playing it on Vassal myself or with others, and my brother plays as well. So, a lot of great memories, a great game. And the system is just so, it's so well done. And, like Frank said, the proficiency, the air combat, it doesn't override everything. So many times air systems tend to try to get so complex. And this is just at a good level where it it really complements the ground war. So just been a big fan for a lot of years.
Excellent. And then Chris, we'll go to you last, Chris, to share your comments about the series.
Well, before I do that, I want to share something just with Frank. You mentioned that the GDW offices were in their same location for pretty much their entire existence. And I have a thing from that time.
Oh, look at that. That's a big
This
box.
is the original
huge
Time
box.
Planetary that I bought in those offices as a high school kid. And I held on to it just because, it's an oddity as far as packaging goes. I still have that, and I played the heck out of that too.
Yeah, it's a square tube. It's a square tube about this big because the map is rolled up in it. So.
Yeah, the map's rolled up in it, ready to ship. It's got the return address label up in the corner and all that.
Oh my gosh, you got it all. It's like from yesterday.
It is. Yeah, it is. Well, the map, the inside, not quite so clean because, hey, Truck Planet gets a lot of playtime. But anyway, I started off with the Third World War series backwards. I bought Persian Gulf first and played the heck out of that. And I really wasn't even remotely interested in the other ones until a gaming buddy of mine, I was over in Europe at the time, gaming buddy of mine said, you know what, we've got this game, there's more to it. And he started showing me the Battle for Germany game. And I think he had an early printing, and it didn't really look quite the same as the one that's out there now, maybe a little bit different. But we started playing that, and so I started at the end and went back to the beginning and started adding all the rest of it in there. And I can't play the game without doing it all. It's just the whole thing is the only experience that just does it for me. But it's a fantastic experience. I've always loved the whole system. I like elegant. That really fits for this game.
Yeah. That's great. Well, let's turn this into a brief panel discussion because I think there's one question that Bill Mills has asked over on Facebook that I think would be great to handle as a combined panel. So anybody feel free to jump in your thoughts on this comment. So Bill's been playing Third World War series, and can you help him out here regarding his experience with balance of play? Everything goes great for the pack, but then it collapses. I've never won as the pack. So comments on this for Bill. Thanks for joining us on Facebook tonight, Bill. Any comments about that?
What you do is you get all your helicopter and airborne. You make a big end run around the NATO lines into the North Sea and back around, and it just collapses. It just unhinges the NATO position, or fails miserably. One of the two.
That's your secret to success, right? When you guys played the game, did you find the result being that, yeah, of course, the pack will start with the initiative, but then it's downhill? And I don't know, it sort of fits the doctrine Frank was saying, I guess, in one respect, which is the Soviet doctrine, at least. It's like you're really prepped for the one big push, and that's it, versus the Western doctrine that you're going to come back in, replenish, come back in. It's not just a one-time hard first strike.
And I haven't played it as much as you guys have recently, but I can tell you that my original thinking was that the game is not evenly balanced. It is balanced in favor of NATO, but they're under the gun right at the beginning. I think that as it was originally conceived, if the Soviets are going to win, they almost got to win quick, because NATO just has this edge in replenishment and maintenance that just will, in the long run, just keep tipping the balance in their favor.
And then, but politically, or the leadership at the time in the 80s, was that their thoughts at the time, that they would go along with that, saying, yes, we have to end it quickly, or else there's no way we can win any prolonged situation? Would that fit the Soviet mindset?
Absolutely. I can't read their minds, but from what I understand, that's almost, at least in terms of the military, what their military advisors would have been telling them, it was, we got to win this quick.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what their military advisors would have been, what their senior military people would be telling them.
Okay. Oh, great. Well, there's unfortunately, Frank, I can't get through all the questions and comments for you. There's a lot of questions about other games in the series and or other games you've done for new editions, and I'll have to try to twist your arm to bring you back sometime. But I thought it was great. Well, first, thanks for being here tonight. I think it's wonderful. Thanks for your support on the project, especially and doing.
Let me just say one thing.
Yes, please.
My memory may have failed me, and I'm not absolutely certain now that I think about it that it was Steve Venters who painted those covers. It might have been the late Bill Keith who did those. Who did a lot of covers for us too.
I could probably look it up.
Bill sounds familiar.
I think actually it was Bill Keith. They were both painting covers at about the same time. Steve Venters did a lot of the covers for the Twilight 2000 series, which were all military covers. But I think as I look at those things, they have more of a look like Bill Keith's covers, and I think he did those.
Great. Well, thanks. I want to get that right for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, there's lots of questions and comments for you. I'm sorry again to the viewers. We couldn't get it all in, but I wanted to make sure Frank had the opportunity to share with us. I've never heard the background story to the Third World War series, so this was wonderful for me to learn about, just the history at your time at GDW and what you considered the key aspects to the design. So what I thought we'd do next is thank you, Frank, and let you go.
Okay.
Let you get on with your life, because you've got 2 weeks to work on that Barlev, or not Barlev, sorry, that's Chris's, but the other one, Suez 73, I think it was. So we'll give you 2 weeks head start on that. But thanks so much for joining us tonight, Frank. And I know we'll be in touch. So
good talking to you guys.
Take care.
Thanks, Frank.
All right. Well, let's. What I'd like to do now is let's segue over. So this is really considered the second half, although I know with the time clock, it's going to go quickly here. Or we're going to need to make it go quickly. But we're going to focus on the new edition, designer signature edition of the Third World War series. So you've seen the GDW, the 4 separate boxes, and Frank talked about those. This is all 4 games in one box. So yes, the price of the game is not in the $60 to $90 range, because it's not one game. It is 4 separate games combined in one big, I guess that's the Soviet doctrine approach. One big push, one time, one hard strike, one box. It's all there. So we're doing the Soviet doctrine approach to the game. Somebody did ask earlier, I just want to mention this. They said, was there any thought given to updating the order of battle? So I think it might be this question here. It was addressed, of course, to Frank at the time, but this really gets into the scope of the project. So Carlos, thanks for joining us on YouTube tonight. So to your question, we definitely had a very specific scope for this project, and that is one where we know how immensely popular the entire series is. And we see on eBay people trying to get it and paying high prices. And it's just one of these sought after items, especially for all 4 games. And if you're new to gaming as well, after the 80s. So we wanted to pay homage to the Frank's work. And we also want to get something that we could get done. And to do a new order of battle right off the bat, that's basically a completely different game. Once you change the order of battle and update it, that's going to bring in a whole host of changes and issues and things that have to be dealt with. So our focus here, which the project team members here, Eric, Greg, and Chris are going to get into now, is we're going to walk you through what our focus was, and they're going to call out particular parts of what enhancements we've driven through this new edition, but without changing the underlying game design. So have some confidence. It's the same game system. If you've heard a lot about Third World War series and you want to experience it with updated graphics and some additional things you'll learn about right now from the team, that was our goal going in. So not making change for change's sake, although there will be a future effort. Our next upcoming project will be to look to do a new version of Third World War, which gets into updated order of battles and things like that, which will be a huge project in and of itself, as I mentioned. So with that, what I thought I'd like to do is and again, all these images are on the Compass website. I will bring in some visuals here for everybody. If you want to call out certain things, I'll do my best to bring up a counter sheet or whatever you need. But what we're going to do now is we're going to focus with, and we're going to start with Chris, with you at the bottom there. We're going to focus with you, and what I'll do is I'll put extra attention on you. I'll just have you on with me, just so we can focus on what you want to cover, and then I'll bring everybody back. But we're going to all cover different aspects, because you were all involved with this project over the last 2 or 3 years. So it's been a long, prolonged effort for sure for all of you. You've done a great job. So let's go ahead, Chris, and let's get started. Again, I'll bring Greg and Eric back here in a moment. But let's just go ahead and have you talk about some of the enhancements in the game that you'd like to share with everybody tonight for this new edition.
Well, first, I want to make a mention of those who couldn't be on the camera with us, who are part of that project team.
Absolutely.
Key to the success of this, hopefully the success of this. A couple of principals who were with us the whole time just couldn't be here on the camera. Lloyd Bonagira, Pat Helville, untold numbers of proofreaders and editors,
Yes.
and what have you, dozens and dozens of folks who took, various levels of involvement with the proofing and editing and all that. There's a ton of other effort going on.
Yeah. No, thanks for. You're a class act. Thanks for doing that. You saved my hide, because you're right. I mean, there's so many people to thank, and like I said, it's like an Oscar acceptance speech. We can't properly thank everybody, because this was over 3 years. And it was an active project over 3 years. There was not a week that went by where nothing was said. It was all you guys and everybody else that couldn't be here, week in, week out for 3 years. Was working on this. And so what I'm hoping you could do to help everybody, and we'll do the same with Eric and Greg here in a moment, is, again, we're talking about not changing the design of the game. That was not our intended scope of the game. So everybody's going to start wondering, well, if I have the games already, what's in it for me? Like, why would I want to bother with a new edition? What care did you guys take, given your expertise with the system, taking ownership of this project? What things did you come up with that you decided to implement that would help with the game? So let's maybe cover that, what you'd like to cover regarding these enhancements.
If you could pull up one of the counter sheets, it really doesn't matter which one, maybe one of the packed ones, so we can talk about some of the things there. Have a couple of those ready.
Okay.
I think first and foremost is as could be expected from Compass Games, we did a bit of an enlargement of the counter size. We didn't need to make the map much bigger at all. The size of the map, the hexes in the original game had a lot of there's a lot of space in there, but they had half-inch counters, as was the custom of the mid 80s games published. Then we increased it just a little bit. We didn't go to 5/8 counters, but 9/16 counters is going to make a big difference on handling. So in my view, any little improvement for a minor playability boost is going to keep building and building and building. So here we've got a few other things that you might notice. Well, we've got all these extra colors on these.
Yeah, I see a lot of colors. It looks like Disneyland threw up on my desk here. So there's a good reason for these colors, I'd say, right?
Well, we stuck with this general basic color palette that we went in. The Soviets are going to be red, but what we did, since there's a game function that deals with stacking of these various Soviet units, we color-coded those units to help reflect the organization, the army level organization. So you can see at a glance which units can stack together, and which units, if there are different colors in the stack, you're going to have that as penalties. That's core to the rules. And the NATO always had an easy time with that, because each nationality was a different base color.
Totally different color.
Units, and even not just the Soviets, but the non-Soviet Warsaw Pact units could be included in some of those armies, and stacking was important for that. Another thing was, and you'll notice to the left of the unit type symbols, which are very clear, by the way. There's a shape. We've got diamonds and circles and triangles. Well, that's the mobility class, which wasn't included on the original counters, but the terrain effects demand that you know what the mobility class is. Now, for my copy, I took different colored highlighters and I went around the edges of them,
the counters,
so you can see in the stack what mobility class they were. Well, shoot, that game's going to either get thrown to the dumpster when I'm gone, or it's going to get stuck in the casket with me, because I've ruined it for a resale because I made those changes. But here you don't have to do that. You can read the circle and know that that's a mechanized mobility class, and you've got leg mobility class.
I've got some diamonds for the legs, right?
There's a few. There's a fourth one, and it's just not showing up here. You don't have to try to find it, but it's a motorized. It's probably not going to be in the packed lineup here. They really didn't have those, but
here we have an upside down triangle, down bottom here.
That's the air mobile. And if you want to think mnemonics here, look at the little the unit type symbol of that DF guy right there where your mouse is. It reflects what the air mobile inverted triangle is. That's what
Yeah.
we were trying to evoke.
Nice.
We're trying to
Very
evoke
nice.
some things like that. So the mobility class and the stacking value
Mhm.
is what you see off to the left of that. The stacking value wasn't included on the counters either. So again, trying to help
Absolutely.
incrementally improve playability. So every
Right.
little
And
improvement
this is not
will
changing the underlying game system at all.
no
It's not changing rules. It's to help facilitate play of the game, like you mentioned, so you don't have to color around the counters, your
right.
GDW counter.
Right.
Yep.
You don't have to take a pen to it.
Right.
Now, there's a guy over here on the above and to the left of that Danube front air mobile unit. He's the 1/76G.
Yep.
He's
Yep.
got a little yellow BD. He's a breakdown unit for the
Okay.
guy to his left, the full strength division 76 guard.
Ah. Okay. Yep. Right
Yeah,
there.
so
Yep.
in the Arctic front, there were some breakdown units, and this lets you know that these guys only show up when their parent unit's not on the map, and vice versa. So we've
Okay.
got the breakdown there. Also, the CN, or in some of these, just the C, tells us what game they're from, what map they're going to be on. That is also true of the stripe at the top. It shows there's a stripe at the top, and this really reflects a more of an optional rule. The original game has some provisions for which maps units can go on.
Yep. Okay.
There were some liberties taken with that, we felt, and we wanted to stick more towards actual NATO and pact plans that we were aware of. So certain armies, certain corps, certain units, certain organizations were really going to be chopped to specific locations, and they were, you couldn't just pick up a packed army and say, you guys aren't going to be in Germany anymore. We're going to send you down to Afghanistan. That's not practical, and the game, if you adopt this optional rule, won't let you do that if you're following these frontal assignment.
Okay.
What do we have here?
Should I show the backs? Should I show the backs of the counters? I think the backs, there were some changes made for the counter backs. Is that correct, or is there anything else in the fronts you want to point out?
No, I think we got the front pretty much, and you can see here on the air units here. This is a good one. They show the same format too. So you've got the three values in the top, but on the front, just to the left of the aircraft silhouette, is the serviceability number. We took it off the back, put it on the front.
Oh, okay,
so
great.
You don't have to worry about flipping units over and
get the serviceability for the air unit.
Get to something you need. So
let me see if I can pull up the back sides here.
Yeah.
Let me actually zoom out to make sure I'm getting a counter back. Hold on. It's a little tricky. Let me.
There we go. That's a back right there.
That's a back. Good. Okay, so let me zoom in.
And the reason I know that's a back is because the proficiency the proficiency value is on a white background. Now, there was no backside that had unit values in the original game. It either had setup information, a specific hex or a country it started out in, or for those air units, it had the serviceability value. Well, it's so common for units to take a hit, and we know.
Yeah.
Frank mentioned it, but the game has a provision on the packed units that they can't recover that last step. So here we've saved all those markers.
Yes. All the markers you have to put down that they were disrupted, right?
Right.
All that goes away.
Hit. So that's very common that units are carrying around one hit, especially packed, because they can't ever get rid of that last hit. So instead of carrying around a hit marker on them, if they have one proficiency hit, they're just flipped over to their backside.
Great.
And they'll once they get flipped over, packed units can never get back to the front. So this is just an easier way, again, taking and hopefully improving playability incrementally.
Another big part, I think, of playability is, so a lot has gone into the counter redesign. So same values for units, et cetera, like you said, but a lot more information at somebody's fingertips. Could you comment perhaps a little bit on, a lot of playability can go into the game markers used for administrative purposes to help manage a game. All the, like you mentioned already, you got you used the backside of these counters to actually get rid of a marker, so that helps with keeping extraneous stacking or markers not necessary. So that's great. But I believe there's also some added or modified game markers to the game as well, to this new edition.
Well, since we got rid of the need to have a lot of 1-point disruption markers, we were able to expand that marker repertoire, I guess, without having too much in the way of, really bloating the number of counters. So we were able to keep the counter count pretty close. Now this is more general stuff. These are things that just didn't exist in the original game. Markers for and zoom in a little bit here. Markers for the nuclear points and for air transport points. You're just supposed to keep track of that on paper or however. Now we've got, and Eric, I think Eric or Greg's going to get into that more detail how those are used. But we've got markers for those. Yeah, victory point markers, mobilization markers. You can see the flags. Those are the diplomacy markers for the diplomacy game. The strike and devastation markers here at the top were for the interdiction rules and all. We've got weather markers, a lot of play aids that, when I was playing the game, the combined game, I would have to make these up in order to smooth the play.
In the original game, were they half-inch? I believe the original game from GDW, they were all half-inch size units.
Everything was half-inch. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are a little bit larger counter, 9/16 inch counters.
Right. I think I tried to mention that.
Okay, I may have missed. Okay.
I think you were pulling up the counter sheet.
So you mentioned the larger. So all these count pieces are larger. You want me to keep scrolling through here? Maybe we'll just pick up some other stuff.
Yeah,
here.
Let me see here. We have NATO Impact. There's a NATO A, NATO B, NATO C, Pact D. Those are actually, or if you would like to have, we've got off-map stacking boxes too. And again, Greg's going to get into some of those.
Okay. Yep.
But here we go. We've got some. There's the strike markers. They're definitely, instead of red print on a white background or a black print on a white background, we know that is a NATO hit marker because it's white.
That's pretty obvious.
We know. Without a doubt that's a packed marker on there. And we've got some other markers too that just can be used. We've got some good out of supply markers didn't exist in the original game. The devastation markers, I always like those, the cities in ruins. I
can zoom in on that a little bit so everybody can get a better flavor, but there's the devastation markers on the bottom right.
Some NATO control markers, again, things that weren't in the original game. We had room for because we saved so much space by getting rid of that need to have so many one hit markers, single hit markers.
But so there's a lot of final counter sheet at the very end, just an extra one of these guys right here. This is something we threw in at the very end of the project, I believe, tail end. I think the comment was we could use some more markers and. Can we do an extra counter sheet? Go from 8 to 9 or whatever the number is. Okay, well here's number 9 right here. Here's a new counter sheet we added late in the project.
The original game had odds markers for the combat. At first, we were going to dispense with those because we were running up against some counter sheet limitations. We did bring them back in because they are handy, and so that's the yellow markers you see there. And there are some other values here, other markers that managed to get fit in where we might have missed them in the original spots. So we've got the POMCUS markers for the U.S. Reforger units listed there. Anything else? Can you bring up?
This? I'm gonna bring in because they've been so patient. I'm gonna bring in Greg and Eric to the stream since we've covered so much with the counters and you've done a great job.
I think I hit everything. I had a punch list of things I wanted to cover, and I think we got them all. Is there anything else that we missed, Eric and Greg, on the counters?
The only thing I can think of was denoting the 1, 2, and 3 on the breakdown and the fact that the first one had nuclear capability. Why don't you go ahead and take that one?
That would probably, I don't know, John, can you pull back to one of the first
counter sheets? Yeah.
The ones that have breakdowns on them here. We'll see if we can locate.
The breakdown. Where was that at? Yeah, I remember. I don't know if I'm going to find it that easily. I think it was on the left side.
There we are.
You've got the back.
Right here,
okay,
right?
There we go.
I don't know if that will show it though.
This is the back side. It probably doesn't. Okay.
But is that the back side? You're right. Hold on. I can scroll up to the next. Maybe it's here.
Keep going,
yes,
a little bit more, a little bit
right
more.
there. That's fine.
Well, I mentioned it, the 176. What I didn't mention, though, that it was, let's move over to the left a little bit. So we can see keep going until you can see now notice here on the, I mentioned the 1/76 guards. And if you look at the next line on the left, there's a 2/76 and the 376.
Yep.
The notation on the parent unit is CN. That's chemical capable and nuclear capable. The first regiment there also has the CN, but notice the second and the third don't have the N, because we figured the the heavy artillery was going to be with the heavier regiment there, and that's where a lot of those nuclear attack points are coming from. At the ground unit level are going to be artillery delivered. So that's what we said. Not every unit gets to be nuclear capable. So in the breakdowns, another thing that you'll notice, there's a guy, the 3/45 towards the right of the center. He's got a yellow dot instead of a white dot. Well, up in the Arctic front, you had some overland capable units, and the yellow dot is another subtype of the motor or the mechanized mobility class. So overland mechanized one-stepper, 3rd Regiment of the 45th.
I think Eric's going to show some original counters from the original game. So yeah, these counters definitely look different, have additional information, more coatings, more help mnemonically to help players with the games.
We took advantage of that with that.
And again, the bigger counter size allows us, 1/2-inch counters would be a tough go to have this information on it, but the slightly larger counter definitely helps a lot as we add more information and color markings to these counter sheets. So it's going to look quite smart, I think, in the end. Somebody's asking, is the yellow for skis?
Exactly.
Yep.
Overland. Yeah.
Overland. Yep. There you go.
That's what they call them in the game.
Got that right, Craig. There you go.
Way to go.
Perfect, Chris. Yep. So, Eric, why don't we bring you in here? And actually, maybe it's easier. I'll just leave everybody here so you guys can just jump in whatever. I think that will flow a bit faster, too. So, Eric, what would you like to cover about this new addition to share? I know Chris has covered the counters pretty much.
Yep. I'm taking on the maps. And before I take on the maps, I'm going to show the difference in size of all the counters.
Okay.
So I'm going to move my camera.
All right. There we go.
And turn on a light. And here we go.
There we go. I see some counters. I see some original counters on the right.
Yes, these are the original 1/2-inch. Here's the new ones that are clipped and the new ones that are unclipped.
There we go.
And you can see how on the old maps, they fit just fine. I don't have access to the new ones. They're still being printed.
Yep. This is the old map, but it's the new count. Yeah, you can see this is a larger. It is obviously, you can see how the counters are larger size compared to the grouping on the right that you have there, right, of Nancy. So yeah, you can definitely see the larger size counters come in handy, and it's also how comfortably it fits. It will fit on our maps being the same basic size.
Exactly.
The hex grid. Excellent. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes. So with that, we have decided to put all the maps together in 22 by 34-inch sizes. So we'll take the 7 maps from the Arctic Front, Battle for Germany, and Southern Front, combine all 7 of those into 4 of the larger maps, which would include Eastern Europe and Western Russia. We combined the 4 maps from the Persian Gulf into 2 of the 22 by 34-inch maps.
Yep, that's this one right here. There's
correct
the Persian Gulf game, and then those are 2 maps, horizontal mode, right? And then the other maps here for Europe. This is everything for Europe here.
So if you can bring up map C.
Sure, map C. Okay, so I'll bring up map C here. So here we go. Let me make sure. I think that's the full map. Landscape. You can see Italy there. There we go. That's map C.
So what we wanted to do here was create a 1 map for the Southern Front when you play it by itself. In the original game, you had 3 separate maps. You'd have, what was it, map Guys,
So
help
there's
me out.
probably a lot more table space or folding, because you probably couldn't get perfect
Yeah,
folds
there was
on the southern
map
front map,
C,
right?
D, and E, and the E would have been off to the north of Romania.
So a
So
lot of
for
extra stuff. Yeah.
right, for us to make a one mapper, we decided to not include the part of the old map E with the new current map C or B. Sorry,
Great.
all the
That's all
maps
right. Well,
letters.
I think the main good news is, Southern Front has gone from maybe needing 3 maps or parts of the 3 maps is now it's one full size map. End of
Correct.
story. You're good to go. So
Right.
you're
So the
set with Southern
consequence of
Front.
that is that Hungary and Romania do not surrender in this game. But we also felt that it was very unlikely that NATO would be able to push their units up that far north in any case.
And what I'll do before we leave this map, I just want to share some more of the detail so people
Yes,
can
please,
see
because
with us
we have
live.
some mnemonics on the map as well, because we have labeled on there, we show the outlines of the various theaters. We also have the various Yugoslavian states in there. We have various Russian military districts and their
Yep, it's all there. All the
other
theaters.
minor countries.
Yep. That's all
Words fail me.
outlaid. Yep. So we've got, those are all accounted for, like you said. So the map
Right.
does have some more, just like we did mnemonics for the counters, we also on the map provided more information to help with the organization of the theater play. And
Right.
added, I know Greg's going to get into, I think we've added a bunch of holding boxes and things to help track what's happening on the
Correct.
various theaters as well.
Correct.
Yeah, and we should probably give a shout out to Bruce Urian. He's the
Oh,
artist
absolutely.
that
Yeah, so
did
all
all
the
this,
art,
the
all the
counters
art we're
and the maps,
showing.
and it's
Yep.
fantastic.
Bruce is
I
did
I
a
was
great-
able to get a hold of the finished production counters sheets at Compass Con just recently, and I have to say they are beautiful. That alone should sell the game.
There we
Just
go. Okay, we're done here. We're gonna go. I'm gonna go now.
Yeah, we're done.
Good night.
No, they are great. It's great to have the larger size and just the redesign, the thoughtful redesign of the counters with the information. I think everybody's going to really appreciate that. Now, did you want to talk about map D at all? I've got a map D.
Yes, if you could bring that up.
So here we've gone
This
portrait
is my
mode instead
favorite
of
map,
landscape
Chadwick.
mode. Yep.
This is my favorite.
So this is, as you can see, this is portrait mode. It's a full-size 22 by 34 map. I'll zoom in a little bit. Let me know where you want me to go or what you'd like
Go
to
down
talk
to the
about.
Ukraine.
Go south, John.
There you go.
South. Yep.
Yeah.
In there.
That's
All
good.
right.
Beautiful.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris, if you wanted to
No.
jump in. Okay.
Well, you're doing great, man.
Okay. So map D, we decided not to use that in play for now. Because the setups would have been a little bit more difficult trying to figure out when they're supposed to come into play in the battle for Germany or the Southern Front. And it just caused a host of issues that we didn't feel we needed to add for this initial release. Later on, we will add something that will take this into consideration and have some sort of action here. But for now,
yeah. So to be clear, the maps for GDW, they had a very different configuration, and I think when I showed earlier, I showed over earlier. Here's the there were big swaths smaller. This is a much more, there's not a bunch of weird things going on with maps falling off to the side. This is a very, obviously square, hard side here, but that's because we expanded. There was a big gap here originally in the GDW version, so we filled this gap because we had this map area. So why not do the map research and get that in there at least, right?
Right.
So that was the thinking there, because you won't see this area at all in GDW's version.
I think what Eric was talking about, if I may, And the reason I wanted to zoom in on this one, we put these military districts because that's where the follow-on echelons for the Soviets were showing up. They would appear here instead of moving in from the map, and that's what he was talking about. That boy, that's going to be a lot more OB work, and I think we deferred that to the phase 2 of the project, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to go for.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. All right. So you've talked about Eric. So we sort of redesigned the maps. I mean, the maps, I don't want to say we redesigned the maps, so we didn't change terrain or anything like that.
No.
We added information, like you said. We added boundaries and things like that, and also holding boxes and displays that are new that will help tracking things. But we didn't literally like change locations of landmarks, or we didn't do anything crazy like that. So
Not at
this
all.
is the original game.
The only thing that we did add was some extra place names on the map. For instance, we have Dnieper listed here, and then there's the military districts that we have listed.
Mm-hmm.
And we've probably named some unnamed ports, the rivers, and whatnot. So it's a little bit more informative, gives a little bit of extra flavor to the map.
Yeah. I remember, I recall from the project, you said it would be nice if we could add a little more historical detail to the map, add more of those landmarks and things. So excellent. Anything else you wanted to touch upon, Eric, before we go to Greg next?
The last thing that we added was off-map movement tracks for the Pact and NATO through Turkey, and the Pact through Russia itself. And then we also added NATO naval movement tracks to help the players keep track of what they have going where and when.
So in the original GDW games, how would you track those things? Just
on paper and hope for the best.
Okay, so we've got formal displays to track all those off-map movements. So, and like you said, we're going to probably get into some of these markers too with Greg. Excellent. Okay. Okay, if that sounds good to you, Eric, I'm going to pass the baton over to Greg here. To what would you like to focus on, Greg, as far as the new edition?
Yeah, I think we'll talk about the rules first.
Okay, the rules. I will bring up the rules for everybody to see, to behold. So this is a 2-page mode of, and again, we have 2 booklets. I'll let you explain everything, but I've got both handy. So I'll let you take it away, and I will be your assistant.
All right. Well, we have a rule book, which consists of the consolidated rules.
That only took a day or 2 to get done, right?
Yeah, it only took a day or 2. It was a lot more,
huge effort.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot more work than we ever thought. I mean, you have 4 rule books, and to combine them all, and there were just a lot of little nuances in wording and the way things were set up that you couldn't just copy and paste and combine things. So, it took a lot of work to, talk about where new units appearing versus entering, sources for isolation between the different games. So just a lot of little things just that we had to look at to bring it all together. Make sure the diplomacy game matches the rules in the rest of the game. The strategic reserve commitment, is something that was in the Arctic Front and Combined game, but we had to structure some more rules around that, or basically make it more clear as to how it would work, where the strategic reserve would be committed. So it was a big effort, and also we started out, we said, there's a lot of, this game has been talked about quite a bit. So we went through the ComSim World Forum, I think all 4,000 messages in that forum.
Oh, I'm sorry. About 15 or 20 years worth of posts, right?
And then also went through the Board Game Geek forums and looked at all the messages in there to find out, what are the areas that people have questions about that they don't feel are clear, where we could add some more explanation. And so those are areas we counted on, or worked on to make sure that we got it. And maybe if you can scroll in the rule book, maybe to like the air section, I think we've got an air combat that's like
I'm
chapter
gonna
9.
sort of go slow here just to give everybody
Yeah,
a chance for a peek of the rules that I'm going through. It's again a 2-page format here as I
Yeah,
go through.
you
But
know,
here
and
we're
we've
getting
had,
into
you
the
know,
air. I think we're getting into air combat here. I don't know if you want me to go deeper in here or not.
yeah, you can zoom in on that a little bit.
Zoom
You know,
in a
we
little
added
bit
a
on
lot
that.
more. I mean, you know, it was an 80s rule book before, so there were no graphics in it. It was, you know, just
Yeah.
all words. It was text.
Right.
So we've added a lot of examples, a lot of designer notes, where we talk about what's happening. But, you know, here we work through an air combat example
Yep.
of, you know, different air units with different values and how it works. So, you know, just tried to make it a lot more user friendly.
Check that out. Remember, the
Yeah.
original game had the F-19,
Right.
so it's still in there. And we put the F-117, the real airplane, in there too.
That's right. We added those. Exactly. Right. So yeah, no, I hope that gives a good, I think that's legible for everybody, not meant to read it now, obviously, but obviously when we do the Kickstarter, we'll have the rules available for full viewing and downloading as well. But hopefully this gives a good sense into the care that went into having to consolidate and enhance the rules presentation for everybody.
Yeah, and you know, we also added, you know, John added a rules index in back, so you know, there's a full index where you can.
Yeah, that was I always like doing the rules index, so I can let me.
You know, I think
switch.
that's a great addition.
So we got that right here. So yeah, just to zoom in there, you can, you know, obviously boldface is for the major sections to make them stand out a little bit. But yeah, it's going to help you find that section to the rules. And again, I apologize. Let me go to full screen mode here. Maybe everybody will get a better idea what this looks like. There you go. So it gives you an idea again. All caps bold. It's the major sections with the page numbers, and then you see everything else in there. So it's meant to just hopefully help you along. If you have to look up anything, it's going to help you find what you need. So yeah, thanks for plugging the rules index. I know people appreciate having a rules index to their games.
Yeah, and then you know, in addition to the rule book, we then have the playbook, which has basically it has all of the designer notes, the briefing booklets from each of the 4 original games.
Yes.
Those are pretty much recreated in their entirety. We did do some edits for clarity or typos, you know, and sometimes put in some notes. You know, I think there was a note on a question is, why is the NATO unit gray? Well, you know, in the original games, there were gray units like in the Southern Front game because they had already appeared in Battle for Germany for like some of the U.S. Marines and the French Marines. And, you know, we kind of said, well, they're gray because NATO's gray because actually that's the color of the unit now as a nation. So, you know, just some clarifications like that in the briefing books. But you know, we included all the same tables on the unit compositions, how the values were calculated by Frank.
Yep, right here. Yep.
So
Strength
really,
determinations.
you know, stayed true to the original.
That's huge too to help with. If you ask me, that was really groundbreaking. That we got to see under the hood quite a bit on how we came up with. He really put it out on the table for us there. I love that.
Yeah. You know, and then we have all the information for setup and reinforcements for each of the scenarios. So you know, Battle for Germany is the first one. You know, and it's structured a little differently than in the original games. The original games was just a laundry list of, you know, here are the Soviet units, and some appeared initially, some were, you know, reinforcements, and now we have it broke up to initial setup and reinforcements by turn. So that way, you know, a little easier to figure out what you have and what you're looking for. So you know, we did that for each of the scenarios. And then also for the combined game scenario. Of course, we do have the Balkan and Taunt scenario for Southern Front. I don't think I've ever played it, but it is in there.
Oh, now that it's only a single map, you plop it down and play it.
Yeah. You know, knock it out. So, you know, that's it.
But
and also,
and we do have deployment sheets, though. Even though we have, you know, everything's in the playbook, you can do so somebody can take the playbook and do the whole setup and knock themselves out silly we do, as you can see here, we have dedicated displays for everything in the game. So again, everything, every game, all 4 games, all the scenarios. I'm just sort of, let me go a little smaller here. I'm just going to do a quick flyby. There's a lot of displays in the game. I forgot the count. I want to say 12 to 14. I lost track. But
I think it's 22.
Okay, I lost track.
Yeah.
So I stand by my original
Well, there's
statement.
12 set up in reinforcement displays, and I think 10 other charts.
Yeah.
And
so if everybody's wondering why we were spending, or you guys were spending 2 to 3 years on this, here's why. This wouldn't be happening within a year, and having normal lives, trying to have normal lives in the meantime. I mean, look at this. Here we go. This is worth a full shot view, right? So that's, again, this is for everything in all 4 games across all scenarios. Bam. All right there for you. So that's about making the game easier to play, hopefully making people's lives easier. You could either put the counter on the display, or if you feel like that's an added step you don't want to do, you can just look at the display and put the counters straight on the map. Your choice, or go with a playbook. You can go back to the playbook and you'll have setup information in there as well. So you can knock your socks off.
And also, I hate to go back to the rulebook, but I did want to mention that we did include the diplomacy game rules in the rulebook. Before, that was a separate mini rulebook compared to the others, and so this way we made sure it's all combined and all flows through through the rules.
Game. Thank you. I'm using the index. It's on page 29. See, that's why I use an index.
There you go.
There we go. There's the diplomacy game. So let's spotlight the diplomacy game is now part of the rules. There you go. And thanks to the rules index, it was easy to find.
Yeah.
So it's all right in there. Absolutely.
Yeah, but and as far as other displays that we have, we have some critical loss displays where you can track your critical losses for countries being shaken or demoralized. Those are something that you had to keep track of.
I'm not sure which one. Oh, sorry. Let me see. Here's all the various displays, but also we have charts and tables, player aid cards. I don't know if it's one. Again, this is hard. This is like
scroll down a little bit.
There they are.
Right there. Yeah, top right.
Sorry. Let me make this fit, guys. Okay. So is that? Critical losses display.
Right, and so it shows the number of brigades that need to be lost to make a country shaken or demoralized. And we figured, instead of adding some more tracking counters, let's use eliminated units. And you use an eliminated unit to
mark it on
the display. So but there are also generic markers in the marker mix. So if you want to use a generic marker, use a generic marker. Just some things like this, as Chris mentioned earlier, the tracks for the nuclear attack points and the air transport points. We do have the units, the organization for Warsaw Pact and NATO that lists the different armies and their organization. Of course, the air sheets, the air theater displays.
Yep. So we added those theaters to the map, right? So we showed that earlier. Eric did. So here's the accommodating new displays for the game that's going to help you have an easier go at it with the markers.
And we did include. There's an Eastern Europe air theater display that's on that new mysterious map D. That won't be used yet, but we do have it included here.
Okay.
Just for your pleasure, and if you want to, if you want to homebrew some rules and use that map, sure, go on.
I can see something in Paper Wars already.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Paper Wars, our in-house organ, right? So it's used to support all these games. So let's see here. So somebody asked earlier, is there like a listing of changes made? So I wouldn't say like we did like to the minute scale of changes made. So if I go back to the rules, might be the playbook. I might be forgetting now. I think it's the rules.
I think it's the.
Let's see here. This is the. That's the playbook.
It's the rules.
The rules went away. I lost them. Let me pull them up. Let me pull up the rules real quick. Sorry, guys. I gotta sort of do this freestyle. I had closed it by accident. So here's the rules, and let's just take a quick peek. I think it's on second or third page. We try to do it right away. So the enhancements are right here, and this is again. This is Herculean task to really go through. But yeah, we go through all the major points. So like all the major changes. So everything Chris talked about, the counters. But I mean, Chris got into every detail, like, oh, we added it this way, we added it that way. It's this or that. We don't go into that final point of a detail, but we are listing out. Yeah, these are, big picture wise, these are the enhancements, not changes, but these are enhancements we've made to help a gameplay. Like adding you were talking earlier about adding these air units as optional use to the game. So we did get into throwing in some nice bonuses as well, besides trying to just enhance the game presentation overall. So yeah, all this is sort of listed here. We try to list out. It gets pretty specific at times, like we talk about added markers to indicate Norwegian sea control and when the Black Sea Fleet has sortied. Obviously, you guys have played the game. you know that has to be tracked. So this would not be done by somebody who hasn't played the game a lot. So to come up with all these ideas. So and others, outside contributors helped us here. So absolutely. And then I did want to mention, I think it's in the playbook. Or maybe it's back to the rules. Let me go back to the rules. I do believe here we want to call out, and there were more than this, but we had some great proofreaders. So like you said, outside people. Yes. I had a Consum World Expo from 2019, 2018. They played Third World War series, and they gave me some files and some tips, which I gave to you guys about what to add to the game as far as displays and things they'd like to track. So you guys, I think Pat Mulvihill was part of that group. So we worked in some of their outside contributions. So we look, besides you guys going to the forum, Consum World Forum and Board Game Geek, and going through the history of what's been posted, you took in ideas from others. And here's some of the proofreaders, which I think contributed probably the most, but there were others that helped as well. To help with looking at everything. So I want to give a shout out to our proofreaders as well. Absolutely. Anything we should close on about, I think the playbook covers, it's everything in there, the setups information, or you use the displays. Here we've got an expanded sequence of play, that's there also as a player aid card. It's also separate. It's also offered as a player aid card. I don't know if there was any additional charts and tables, you needed to.
Yeah, I think we have a combat odds track.
We didn't talk about the diplomacy cards.
Diplomacy cards.
We have those. Obviously, we have diplomacy cards.
Sweet looking.
I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't catch that.
They're very sweet looking. The original ones were one-sided, black and white.
Yeah, the cover looks like this, I think. So here's the cover, the back of the cards, and here's the information. So what information's on each card? So these are nice cards, professionally done cards for the game. Like a card-driven game or something.
Card. Yep.
So, and then I think as far as the displays go, I think I've pulled up everything on that. I don't know if there's any charts and tables you still needed to show
maybe,
it all.
Can you pull up one of the organizational charts?
Sure. Let me go here. Let me pull up displays. Maybe it's one of these.
Yeah, no, I think it should be. It's probably in the charts and tables.
Oh, okay. Let me see if we can. If you can help spot it for me.
Or play rate. Scroll down a little bit.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look at the combat tables.
Even I don't know what this is because I can't. It's not giving me a preview. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty standard.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I mean, but like Chris mentioned, it just gives an overview of the different colors, and
there's a lot of stuff. It's hard to organize. There's so much. There's a lot of components and content to this new edition, obviously. So, yeah, and there's the different symbols that Chris was mentioning earlier on the unit counters that we went through. So, no, I think that was a pretty good overview. Like I said, there's so much more we can show.
Actually, John, if you could go back to your list of charts and hold on, go up.
Yep.
If you or scroll down to keep going, and hold on. Yeah, the one right underneath the PDF on the left side or right side, and then scroll down.
Okay.
Because that, I believe, is where we have the organizational charts.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
There it is.
That's good.
Yeah.
So there's the NATO organization.
Pact one instead of NATO?
It's probably a separate file, which I'd have to hunt down. But yeah, it's the same concept, basically, right? Yeah. So this gives people an idea. I mean, we have this again for Warsaw Pact, same treatment. This is the NATO version, but yeah, I think just in the interest of time, because everybody's been so patient with keeping Frank a little longer than anticipated. We've run almost 2 hours, so
True enough.
hopefully this is enough to convince people this was not a 1 week project, right? So,
This was. I'll give you 1 minute on this one. This was kind of. I don't want to say it was my baby, but it was at my insistence, I think, that we put in the actual op plan organization. So you can see up in if a counter has a blue bar and it's NATO, it's going to be part of AF-North, which if you're playing with the optional rule that says AF-North units have to stay in the Arctic front map and they can't be sent off anywhere else. So Frank mentioned 10th Infantry, the Mountain Division up in Fort Drum, New York. Well, it was chopped to the Arctic conditions in Norway, and it was trained and equipped for that environment, and it would not show up on the deserts of Saudi Arabia. It just wouldn't without some specific and very time-consuming alterations that probably would have kept it out of the battle. So those considerations, if you want to pull those in, you can use that, and the coloration here for all the different NATO corps will help you. You know, it's more flavor than anything else. But the pact, goes by armies, and armies are stacking. Pact stacks by army, so that'll help you keep things together. And I bet you didn't realize that those Norwegians were part of the Trøndelag Corps.
There you go.
Now you do.
Now we know. So I'm going to let you guys go here because you've been so patient and you did a great job. Again, we can't get through all the questions, unfortunately, but as Crouch says, you guys did a great job tonight. So, and people are excited to pre-order this, and it's really because of the attention and care you've put into this project, being, really a longtime veteran players of the original series and knowing what it needed and searching out what could help it make it even better. Again, just thanking Frank Chadwick for the great work he did. This is really an ode to Frank Chadwick. I want to close on one question for each of you to consider and ponder. And it's been a long project. It's been 2 or 3 years long. Yes, there will be future projects. There's, like I said, the updated new version that has new order battles and other expansions and things added, and new topics, new games like Manchurian Front and things like that. But from this project, just now that we're putting a bow tie on this for the past 3 years, I want to ask each of you, what's the most memorable thing you had about this project that for now, I know it'll be more memorable when you get gamer feedback, right? That's where we're all keeping our fingers crossed. We want everybody to love the work that's been done here because it's been such a dedicated, long process to go through, and having outside help as well really helped us along. But any takeaway from this project? This was a long project. This was several years, not 6 months, 3 months. So I'll start with Greg. I'm going to start with you there, bottom right corner.
Yeah, well, and actually I was just looking in the playbook and the project team development notes, and in there we say that our first message on Basecamp was January 10th, 2018. So just shy of 4 years for this, and I'm well, it's been a long time and it's been a lot of work, but I think it's been really good because, everybody comes with different viewpoints and different ways to look at the game, but it all comes together. I mean, everything just flows, and was great bouncing ideas off of each other of what might work, what might not. So it was just really, I never got to the point where I'm like, I am so done with this. I want to be done. It was just a really good experience and great working with this group.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Who wants to go next? Eric or Chris? Who wants to go next?
Go ahead, Eric.
Okay.
Jump in there.
Okay. Like Greg said, it was fantastic working with the team, and I hope to get to work with all of them going in the future. I guess my most memorable thing was being semi-ambushed at Compass Con and trying to match up all the counters with the display sheets instead of being there to play a game like I had intended. All in about 2 days.
Yeah, that was a long, arduous task. That was just when you thought you were done. We wanted, and that's something Bill does with every game, to go through all the setups of every every game that's produced to make sure,
Yes.
so if we catch an error, we can put in a correction sheet in the box or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So that was a Herculean effort on your part. So thanks.
But
thanks,
I got
Eric.
an entire bag of counters now.
You do. So you
and
showed those counters.
They are
See,
beautiful.
we did it on
Insane.
purpose so you could show those real counters on that little comparison thing you did. Perfect. All right, Chris, you're on the hook because we stalled for you, Chris, to come up with something from the last since 2019, whatever it was, whatever Greg said. It's been a while.
The one thing that's amazed me, and it didn't get enough mention here, Bruce Yerian's graphic work.
Yes.
The physical
Yes.
beauty of it is going to be enjoyed by everybody, but Bruce as a designer, as a working guy, is amazing. You can dump the worst task on him and he'll do it quickly and smile. He's just amazing how good he is, and how much of a real pro he is. And it was, we're talking about entering new map territories, putting new stuff on the map. He made it look like it looked in 1984, but better, and the counters better. Not because we came up with this harebrained idea to put color bars on it, but because he made it work.
Right.
And that's what's really amazing to me.
Yeah,
This
he
thing
helped realize you had these ideas, and he helped
He put
visualize
it
it for you to see if it would work or not. And it was a very iterative process, very
He,
flowing because we had people with ideas. And
Yeah, I mean, he was a joy to work with. I mean,
So-
absolutely.
so
a
hat
pro's
tip to
pro.
Bruce Urian and all the everybody else that helped. And this
If
is
it
the end
looks
result.
good,
So
it's Bruce who did it.
yeah. So Third World War Series, there it is. It's 4 games in one box. It's the, as I will say now, it's the, according to Frank Chadwick, it's the Warsaw Doctrine, the Warsaw Pact Doctrine approach to get it done one time, big, show up big. So you'll get all these 4 games. Thanks for the pre-orders. Everybody, Mike Kelly, who just commented on Facebook, thanks for your pre-order of the game. Again, you'll get 4 games. You'll get the whole series. And nobody here would take anything away from the original release. The original release, everybody's enjoying to this day and in the future. But this is just meant to pay homage to the great design Frank did, and to try to help make it better without changing it, make it more enjoyable for everybody. So, guys, hat tip to you. Great job. I want to thank you all tonight, and want to thank you for all you did, and everybody else that couldn't join us tonight. Thank you all for what you did. This will be an ongoing saga with new additions, as I mentioned, new games. So consider this hopefully a good big first step for the Third World War series, and there'll be more to come. So again, Chris, Eric, Greg, thank you so much for all your time tonight. And of course, thanks to Frank Chadwick for helping us kick off tonight's show, talking about the original release. Thanks again,
was a real
guys.
pleasure.
All right, have a
Thanks.
good night,
Enjoyed it.
everybody.
All right. Thanks,
Have a good
guys.
night. Bye-bye.
Bye.